So today I want to start out with an apology because I think there's a few tools that can help you declutter your house so much faster, but I don't always do a good job of describing them. Someone asked me recently, do you have a video on memory bins? And I'm like, oh my goodness. I think the last time I did a dedicated video on this was 4 years ago. Look how cute little Gage is. He's 8 now, right? You can declutter your house so much faster if you have these 3 bins in place. So we're gonna talk about them today, but more importantly, what's the magic behind each one of them? Well, hi, I'm Dawn from The Minimal Mom. If we haven't met before, I'm married to Tom and we have 4 kids ages 8 through 12. When I started doing this, we had 4 kids ages 4 through 8. They just keep growing. And these tools that I'm gonna share with you today, every year I just become more and more resolved that they are so helpful and so powerful. So we're gonna talk about 3 bins that every minimalist home should have today. Those are a memory box, a time will tell bin, and a time will tell paper basket. So real quick, I'm gonna tell you the power behind each of these, and then we'll talk about each one of them more. So a memory box, it gives you something to compare to. So if I just hold something up and I'm like, should I keep it, should I not? We need something to measure against. Then we have our time will tell boxes, and these help us to make quicker decisions, and it also helps you test your hypothesis. I think I don't need this anymore, but can I be certain? And then we have our time will tell paper basket, and this helps us defer decisions strategically. So we don't wanna make a habit of deferring decisions when we're decluttering, but there is a category of stuff like paper that we just don't always know. So it's a very strategic piece that we can use so that we don't have all these random piles of paper around our house anymore. Isn't that awesome? So let's talk a little bit more about each of these and how you can maximize it in your own house. Okay, so let's talk about memory boxes. I'll show you our kids and then also my personal memory box. So Cass from Clutterbug, she had said when she was doing the TV show Hot Mess House, they would first go into people's houses and help them declutter, and then she added in organization. But she said all of the decluttering had to be done in one day. One day, and you would look at these spaces and they are jam-packed with stuff. And she said, I made sure every single home that we went into, they had a memory box. Why? Because when we're decluttering and we want to declutter quickly, we are gonna come across sentimental items, important pieces, stuff that is irreplaceable. You can't just go get another one, right? So we need a designated spot for that stuff. So that's where the memory box comes in. So the power behind the memory box is 1, it gives us a designated spot for sentimental items. We know where it goes. It has a home. We don't have a little bit here and a little bit there. It has a designated home. But number 2 is the powerful point. It helps us gauge how important the item really is because we begin to ask ourselves, is it worth taking up space in my memory box? So this creates a limit, and our goal is to fit everything within inside this container or this boundary or this limit. Now, why? Why, Dawn? I could have multiple bins and call them memory boxes, so why do I want to try and limit it to 1? That's a great question. Because a gift that we could give our kids is a curated collection of their special memories. I hear from so many of you who are further down the path and your adult children are grown and you lament. They don't want their stuff. They don't want the stuff from their childhood. And I think part of the reason why that is because they look at it and it's boxes and bins and it's overwhelming. It's a lot of stuff, right? But what if instead we could give them a specially curated box of stuff? We're saying here are the special items from your childhood. Our kids love going through their memory boxes now, but I know they'll love going through them with their kids too because it's a special collection and it's not everything from their childhood. All right, so like I said, these were the kids' memory boxes, but I can show you inside of mine. I've actually been organizing it a little bit more inside of our mentorship group. It's mostly photos, but then some other special items too. But circling back to it being something that I can compare to, let me show you with some examples. These are cards from my birthday. So when I'm looking at the cards, I say, is this special enough to go in my memory box? And I look at it, what's written on it, who's it's from, and I could be like, yes, this had a very special message on it. It's something I want to remember my 40th birthday by, so yes, I do want to keep this. Now this card, it's beautiful. It was from a friend, but it literally just said happy birthday on the inside. They didn't write any special message, which is fine. It's totally fine, right? But this type of card, this is not worth taking up space in my memory box. Then there's this card. This was funny. This card from Tom, it's like this pretty, like really beautiful card. To my beautiful wife, I always look to you for comfort and strength. And then and the inside it said, and then sometimes I just look at you because you're really hot. And so it totally made me laugh. And then he also wrote a personal note in there. So this I thought was great. And so this card I do want to keep. Oh, this one is cute too. At first I was gonna say, well, Corbin, he made this like really quick, but I just thought it was so cute how he wrote from. So I'm choosing not to look at it as judgment against my homeschooling skills at this point, and it was really sweet. And so I'm gonna write the date on that and keep that one as well. But do you see how now we have something to compare it to? Is it worth taking up space in my memory box? And that's the question then that we ask ourselves. And so again, we could look at this like, oh, it's so restrictive, I can't keep everything that I want to from my kid's childhood. Or we could flip the script and say, I am curating a special collection of things that I'm gonna enjoy and enjoy looking back, and that I'm gonna be able to gift them in the future that they can enjoy for themselves and with their kids as well. All right, let's talk about our Time Will Tell paper basket now, because I have heard from so many of you that this has transformed paper in your house. And so the magic behind this is that it can really cure all those piles of paper that end up on the kitchen counter and the end table and dining room table, all of the places that paper tends to pile up. And so this is a basket for paper that we don't know if we still need or not. So again, when we're decluttering, we don't want to defer decisions, meaning if I hold something up and I'm not sure if I should keep it, and then I just put it back. That's deferring the decision because I'm gonna have to handle that thing again. But with paper, it can be tricky because we don't always know if we're gonna use the coupons or order from the catalog or fill out the order form or whatnot, right? So paper is a little bit tricky in that regard. We often don't know if we're gonna need it, right? And so that's where this comes in place. So anything that's not an action item, like I for sure have to sign this permission slip or send back this bill or whatever, that requires a very specific necessary action or there's bad consequences. Anything else can just get tossed in here because you know if you were to need it, you know where to retrieve it. And so this can tend to get filled up and kind of overflowing because again, it's helping us to make quick decisions and we're tossing stuff in. But here's what's cool about it. So if it starts to get full, what we do is we just flip it over and then we start at the bottom, and you're gonna find that you have time tested this stuff, and now it's much easier to make the decision whether or not you actually need it. And so anything that's there's not action required, we can throw into here. But here's the other cool part about it. I hardly ever put anything in here anymore because I know I just end up throwing it away and I never use it. Like catalogs in the past, I would have kept like, oh, maybe I'll order from that, or a recipe that you rip out of a magazine, a paint color you thought you might use, and you put it in here, you're like, okay, well, at least I know where it is, right? If I do decide I want it. And I come back and I'm like, well, totally forgot about that, didn't need it, and I guess I don't have time, right? It's time testing it. I don't have time to use that. And that's totally okay. Because I hear from many of you, you're like, how do you keep track of like recipes and different things? And I'm like, I put it in here and then it tells me if I had time for it or not, right? Most of us don't have enough hours in the day to manage and use all of the stuff that comes in and that we try to keep and try to archive and all that. So let this basket help you learn more about yourself and have a really strategic spot to put paper that you just don't know about. All right, and then we have our classic. We have the big Time Will Tell bin. I used to call it a quarantine bin. That was before quarantine got a really negative like connotations, right? So we don't call it that anymore. We call it a Time Will Tell bin because again, we're time testing stuff. And the magic behind this is that it helps us to make decisions faster. So another thing I've learned from Cass is that when we're decluttering, it's very helpful to have predetermined categories. And so I talked about this in my video about how to declutter your kitchen in 15 minutes. When we hold up something, we want to have predetermined categories that it has to go into one of these three places. So if I'm in the kitchen and I hold up a serving platter that I haven't used in a long time, my three predetermined categories are keep it. It can go in with the other platters wherever I store that. 2, donate it, right? I don't need it. I'm not going to use it in the future. I'm just going to donate it. And then we have those middle ground items where we're like, but I did use it for Christmas 2 years ago. I didn't use it this past Christmas because those people didn't come over, but what if they come over this Christmas and I don't know? So our third predetermined category is our Time Will Tell bin. And so this helps us to make decisions quicker because if there's something that's just really hanging me up, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna sit here and deliberate over it and waste my emotional energy and my time for decluttering. I'm just gonna throw it into the time will tell bin. And then in 3 to 6 months, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna revisit it. And what we like to do when we go back and revisit items in a time will tell bin is you don't wanna touch it. If at all possible, try to look through the bin and see if there's anything that you need without touching anything, because when we touch it, we actually develop a connection with it again, and it can make us confused. We're like, I thought I didn't need it, I time tested it, but maybe I do need it, right? So if at all possible, don't touch anything in the bin, glance in, make sure like there's nothing super important that you forgot about, put the lid back on, donate the whole thing. I donate Rubbermaid totes now because if they sit in my house, they will fill back up with stuff. I don't need more Rubbermaid totes, so I use these as donation containers now, but you can use a cardboard box too, any container that you have sitting around, label it, put time will tell on it, put the date, and you can put what kind of stuff is in it. In fact, let me show you the one I just did in the bathroom. Let me grab it quick. So this fall we were doing like a full house reset in our mentorship group, and we were going through the bathroom, and I was like, darn it, there is just like some makeup and different things that I have spent money on that I'm having a hard time parting with, or that Diana has given me, right? And so I had this little bin, it's actually like for file folders and stuff, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna make a small time will tell bin for the bathroom, and I'm just gonna throw stuff in so this stuff is not hanging up my decision making. I also decided to like put extra stuff in it. Can you see like deodorant? I did not cancel the subscription in time, and we have like 12 of these. So I'm like, I don't want them cluttering up my drawers, but if I put them outside of the bathroom, for sure I'm gonna forget about it. So then I just created this for the bathroom. It fits underneath the bathroom sink. So I know to look here first for duplicates of things, but otherwise after a couple months, I'll be able to go back through it and very confidently declutter stuff that I'm just clearly not using and have forgotten about. So time will tell bins can come in all shapes and sizes. My hypothesis is I don't need it, right? But now I can test it by tucking it away for a little while. And then after 3 to 6 months when I come back to it, it can go from hypothesis to pretty certain fact. So I would love to know if any of these tools have been helpful for you, or if you use them in a different way, put a different spin on them. Your wisdom and insight is so valuable, and we always appreciate you sharing that down below. So thank you in advance for that. And also, if you just need a reminder, a refresher, why this extra inventory in our house is so stressful to us, I'm gonna link to that video on the silent to-do list. I still think the idea behind that everything in our house is sending out messages, is so important. So I'll link to that video as well. But I love you. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.